Bonjour Ahmad MASSOUD. Vous êtes le fils du célèbre commandant Massoud, le lion du Panjshir, qui a été donc assassiné le 9 septembre 2001. C'était 2 jours avant les attaques aux États-Unis, les attaques contre le World Trade Center. Vous êtes aujourd'hui en Europe pour porter un message très fort alors que les talibans sont aux mains de votre pays. Vous publiez un livre exceptionnel qui s'appelle « Notre liberté » dans la collection bouquins. Vous êtes venu porter quel message? Au fond, vous vous dites, vous qui avez fondé un front de résistance en Afghanistan, qui incarnait peut-être l'espoir d'un autre islam et puis d'autres libertés pour votre pays, vous dites toutes ces années n'ont servi à rien. Aujourd'hui, mon pays est encore aux mains des talibans.
First, thank you so much for having me. And of course, unfortunately, in my opinion, the situation in Afghanistan have not changed because of various factors. To the better situation. Right now, Afghanistan, after the takeover of the Taliban, it is a prison to its citizens and it's a safe haven for terrorism. And it is becoming once again a hotspot for threats, not just to the people of Afghanistan, to beyond. Well, just like how my father 22 years ago came and warned the world, also we bring this message that Afghanistan needs to be paid attention to because situation is, and every day it is developing from bad to worse under the rule of the Taliban.
Oui, vous avez le sentiment d'avoir été trahi. Vous en parlez dans ce livre quand Trump a décidé le retrait des troupes malgré vos demandes, y compris en France auprès d'Emmanuel Macron, et quand même le président en place à l'époque, avant de fuir par la corruption, a lui aussi trahi, dites-vous, son peuple.
Well, regarding the Afghan government, of course there was corruption and there were incompetent leaders. Otherwise, we would not be at this position that we are at. However, still, there were other factors which was good. For example, till the very last day, the biggest treasure of Afghan people, which was its army, was fighting in each corner of Afghanistan. Let's not forget that till the very last year, the Taliban did not manage to control more than 5% of the country. However, there were 2 big elements which truly impacted and changed everything from that situation to complete catastrophe and collapse. First, it was the agreement with the Taliban. It elevated them to the point that they saw that there is no need for negotiation, that Afghanistan will collapse. Second thing, it was an unconditional withdrawal that even the EU was not consulted with at that stage. These 2 bad decisions, alongside other factors, unfortunately, it all went hand in hand to creating the situation that we are seeing. That Afghanistan right now has no government. Afghanistan is in the hand of the terrorism and is becoming a threat to Afghanistan's people and to beyond.
Vous dites néanmoins aujourd'hui, Ahmad Massoud, ce serait encore possible aujourd'hui de faire quelque chose. C'est le message que vous êtes venu porter.
Yes, absolutely. I believe in the past 2 years, the action of the Taliban, which is clear indication they have not changed. They have broke all the promises they made in Doha during the agreement. At the same time, the resistance of the people of Afghanistan in different shape and form. The women's resistance, the military resistance, and also the political resistance of the people, which to this day, the Taliban cannot and do not want to get internal legitimacy because the people do not want them. It all proved that nor the people of Afghanistan want the Taliban and nor the Taliban have changed. And they are just using the terrorism, narcotic, and external elements to consolidate their oppression on the people of Afghanistan. They created a totalitarianism regime in Afghanistan.
Vous prônez un islam ouvert, un islam de tolérance.
Yes.
C'est ça que vous dites. Et vous dites dans ce livre qui s'appelle « Notre liberté » aux éditions Bouquins, un livre exceptionnel, Ahmad Massoud, vous dites, au fond, ces gens-là, c'est l'anti-islam. Les talibans, c'est l'anti-islam.
Yes, and also before coming to this question, I need to complete the previous one, that of course, that's why I'm here, that after 2 years, there is a way out. And we are here to bring the message of the women of Afghanistan and men of Afghanistan that we have proved that we stood our ground. We did not give up to the will of the enemy and terrorism. And we hope that our partners and our friends, the allies, the regional neighbors and the beyond and the world do not also give in to the will of the Taliban, to cooperate with Afghans, to put pressure on the Taliban for a legitimate process to end for a legitimate government, which is the solution to everything. However, regarding the second question, let me tell you something, and also to your viewers. The main victim of Islamic extremism, it's Muslims themselves. My father was not killed by anybody else but two Islamic extremists. Actually, if you go throughout the history of Islam, many pillars of Islam, many big figures such as Uthman and Ali, at the very beginning, they were killed by Islamic extremists. But throughout the history, we managed to always to control them, to destroy them, because the moderate Islam was the majority. The reason now they are in power, they are able to maneuver from Africa to Afghanistan and beyond, is because of the geopolitical games and geostrategy games of the superpowers, that they are using these tools as the geopolitical tools. Otherwise, the people of Afghanistan, prior to the Cold War, they never had this mentality and this ideology. Ideology of the Taliban, it is alien to the people of Afghanistan. It is not Islam.
Ce livre exceptionnel, Ahmad Massoud. Vous racontez évidemment comment vous étiez encore enfant quand votre père donc a été assassiné par deux terroristes, deux faux journalistes. Vous dites qu'en fait, on aurait pu éviter cela, que votre papa était venu ici en Europe, au Parlement européen, il était venu nous demander des armes, qu'il n'a pas obtenu, qu'il s'était senti seul, qu'il s'était senti abandonné. Et vous dites au fond, il y avait deux équipes à ce moment-là qui se sont formées, l'une pour tuer votre père et l'autre pour mener les attentats du World Trade Center, et que tout ça aurait pu être évité.
Absolutely. Well, let's say that one of the main reason, if not the main reason, of my father's assassination was his trip to Europe. Because after that, Al-Qaeda and the Taliban and other extremist groups, they realized that this is the beginning of a strategic cooperation between a very strong Afghan side, a moderate side of Islam, which is leading by a charismatic, exceptional leader like Ahmad MASSOUD, and the democratic world. And of course, at that time, the regional countries were also very cooperative, and they were very constructive. They saw a real threat. They knew, even if Ahmad MASSOUD is not being defeated alone, how can we defeat him if he's having partners with him? So therefore, they decided and they planned that attack. By the way, the people in group who assassinated my father, it was Ayman al-Zawahiri was the mastermind, and same group carried the same attack in 9/11 with just different people, but same group, same mastermind, and same Al-Qaeda. Unfortunately, when he came here, as you rightly mentioned, he was not being heard. And we lost that opportunity that we could work together and prevent from 9/11 to many other terrorist attacks which harmed all of us. And the past 20 years of failure, pain, money, sacrifices in Afghanistan. But unfortunately, Ahmad MASSOUD was not being heard at that time. I hope that 22 years later, this time, the message of Massoud and the path of Massoud, which the resistance in the people of Afghanistan is following, now they hear us.
Oui, vous dites dans ce livre qu'il avait fallu 7 ans à votre père pour vaincre l'armée rouge, et qu'en 20 ans de présence de l'OTAN en Afghanistan, ils n'ont rien obtenu que finalement accepter le retour des talibans en disant au fond aujourd'hui les talibans sont devenus des gens modérés. Et vous dites c'était une escroquerie.
Well, this is another aspect which I mentioned. There are many factors for Afghanistan campaign's failure, and one of the things is that unfortunately, United States of America and the world, they tend to always impose their own belief in a region or in a country without actually hearing from them. So when my father came and proposed a proper strategy, he knew what is happening in Afghanistan. They didn't listen to him, and this is all happened. When they went and talked to the Taliban, we told Americans do not do it. I had meeting with Mr. Khalilzad 3 times. And each meeting I told him exactly what is going to happen, and I urged him to stop the talking. I didn't say, please stay in my country. I said, if you want to go, go. But at least do not elevate my enemy to the point for them to be able to not talk to me and to destroy the government. They didn't listen. They engaged. They talked. They reached an agreement. They talked and engaged with terrorists, with those who committed 9/11 and so many other atrocities. At the end, they left with no condition, without consultation with Afghans or with Europe. And that is catastrophic for all of us. One important factor which I need to mention. Unfortunately, throughout the 20 years, there were some pressures always, from elections to other aspects, which brought us to this catastrophe. Another important thing was the pressure of United States and Qatar and so on the government of Afghanistan for releasing 5,000 soldiers of Taliban who were in prisons. And they promised that release of these prisoners, which was a part of the Doha deal, they are not going to return to the front line. And they said, we guarantee it. Well, guess what? They returned to the front line, and they were one of the main reasons the Afghanistan government failed and collapsed. So unfortunately, yes, our government had a lot of flaws, a lot of problems, corruption, incompetent leaders. But also we had 100 other qualities. We had freedom, we had free press, we had human rights, we have women rights, and we had elections. Right? We were on the way of building our country. New generation were coming like myself. But we feel abandoned, and yes, please allow us, the people of Afghanistan, to feel betrayed.
Dans ce livre, Notre liberté, Ahmad Massoud, vous racontez évidemment comment votre papa lisait Victor Hugo, le général de Gaulle, comment il était imprégné de la culture européenne et française en particulier, et puis comment un jour, dans le miroir, vous avez senti comme un appel qui vous a dit il faut relever le défi, continuer, parce que vous dites au fond, un lion ne peut pas mourir et ne mourra jamais. Et aujourd'hui, vous menez le combat, vous continuez le combat de votre père, malgré les menaces des groupes terroristes ont mis votre tête à prix, et vous dites, je continuerai tout de même.
Yeah. Absolutely, because in my opinion, if General de Gaulle would be like, okay, it's a lost cause, I'm gonna just leave and I do nothing, I believe that today the Nazis would be ruling Europe and the world. If my father did not stand and fight the Soviets and also the terrorism in the first round, I believe by now we would be having a totally different conversation, and Afghanistan would be still to this day the home of the terrorism. I believe in principles. On the 15th of August, many countries, they offered a way out for me and my family to leave the country. But I've been speaking of principles to my people for so long. How could I just leave them alone in the face of enemy coming and carry on my life? No, we had to stay and we had to stand and we had to fight. And I did it, and we did it. The people of Afghanistan did it all alone for 2 years. However, there is a message. After 2 years, we proved it is possible to stand against the enemy. It is possible to bring it to the table for negotiation. It is possible to help the people of Afghanistan in a proper way and leave these naive policies which exist right now in Europe and the world regarding Afghanistan, and stand by the principles which de Gaulle stood on those principles. However, let's not forget, if there was no allies and support and help to General de Gaulle, that would be a very difficult situation for him and for France and also for Europe. Right now, we stood for 2 years. I believe we are facing, and we know we are facing, not just the Taliban, international terrorism. We also need allies. And I'm here to see if there are friends with principles, which I'm glad that, and I'm feeling very positive with my trip in Europe so far.
Merci beaucoup, Ahmad Massoud. Vous publiez donc Notre liberté, préface d'Olivier Weber aux éditions Bouquin, un livre exceptionnel. Donc vous, le combattant du front de résistance afghan, a donc après votre père, le commandant Massoud. Merci d'être venu invité exceptionnel sur ce plateau de TV5 Monde. Merci.
Merci beaucoup.